Yo, what's happening? It's recording now? Oh, 100%, cool. It's me, your local foods. I think you know the guy. I'm just editing the podcast right now. I'm going to put this little video before it because I want to say something real quickly as I'm editing it. We spoke about some touchy things during this podcast about race in America and how it relates to the cannabis industry there. I then pointed out that we're not there now and we're not in America, we're in Scotland, and I wanted to make that kind of thing clear. We also spoke about some touchy subjects regarding mental health, and I just want to make sure that I'm not targeting anyone in here. You know, we spoke about footballers and stuff in this country and sports personalities who are just sometimes not very pleasant people. Look, I'm not wanting to target anyone. These conversations are just to get ideas and conversations out into the world. And if you have something to say against something I've said or something Angus has said, I want to hear it. I want to have a conversation about it. My podcast is going to be very optimistic. I'm trying to look forward to the future. I'm trying to push past all these touchy subjects. And, you know, part of that is being able to be like, fuck all this and just go. And so I just want to know, I don't want to target anyone. I'm not deliberately trying to target anyone. I'm just trying to start conversations. If you disagree with something that is said, and if you have something to add, leave a comment, go on Instagram, DM me, you know, just get in touch somehow. You know, you've got phones, you've got technology, you know how to do it. I'm on Instagram, your local Foobs, or Fubu's Future Podcast. Come and hit me up on there and have a conversation about it. If you want to target me in the comments, go for it. I'm fucking ready for you. But at the end of the day, it's like I'm doing this to have conversations and to move things forward because I feel like a lot of our conversations have become stagnated. You know the word I'm trying to say, yeah. And I think sometimes you have to come up with alternative ideas and really push the boat. One of them I really specifically want to talk about right now is mental health, because I've been through a mental health crisis. I was homeless. You know, I've sat there on the phone to Samaritans. You know, I know what it's like to be there, and it's a fucking horrible place. And unless you go through it, you cannot imagine it. But I've come out the other side of that. For anyone listening to this right now, I've come out the other side of that. And a lot of that healing I did myself. Without a lot of people around me, without a lot of help, without medicine, without all that, I've treated myself, and it's taken me a long time. It's taken me a good 2-3 years to get myself back to where I am now, but I'm there. When I'm speaking about these mental health things, I'm not targeting you for going through it. I understand you're in a different place right now. I'm just trying to enlighten you to the fact that sometimes having a close friend by you to kind of just slap you and say, look, you need to get yourself out of this, that's not a bad thing always. I know it seems like a bad thing at the time, and it's really painful when someone comes at you when you're in that position. But from my own personal experience, I can tell you that sometimes having that friend there that you can trust, that you really want to trust, and having them telling you to just snap out of it, and having them there to continuously give you these little digs, that optimistic person, try and find a friend like that, because, you know, that's what I'm trying to say to people is like, that thing is not, don't stigmatize, you know, getting a slap and being told to wake up, because it does work as well. Like, if you're in the morning, like, I had mornings when I was really unwell, when I got up and I just went, fuck this, I'm not going to sit here and feel like a piece of shit. And I would leave the house, I'd maybe go for a walk or go and get something to eat or try and speak to someone. Those little tiny efforts, those are the things that are going to keep you on your journey to healing yourself and to health. In terms of some of the other topics we spoke about, with 9/11 and some topics to do with racism. I think we even briefly maybe spoke about gender. I'm still going through it right now, but I just wanted to say I'm not deliberately targeting any people here. It's all just conversation. If you've got something you want to say, just hit me up in the DMs, hit me up in the comments, and I will get back to you 100%. I want to have these conversations. Anyway, take everything with a pinch of salt, listen through it, and if you enjoy it, again, like and subscribe and that kind of bullshit. But really, I'm not here to target anyone, I'm just starting conversations. Beyond that, take it with a pinch of salt, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks.
The hair's going to be in my face.
Yeah, got to put hats on. Get that fucking shitey COVID haircuts out the way.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Yeah, what's that about?
Oh, not too much. Just a wee bit tired. I went out for a walk today, and just like pretty much every other day, that's all there is to do at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's recording. It's recorded now, by the way, as well.
All right. Oh yeah, cool. Let's see that. Yeah, just trying to keep myself busy at the moment, but there's not really much to do. I mean, I'm at uni, so like I'd have plenty to do, but I don't really want to do it. So
motivation to get it all done, eh?
Well, this is it. Like, this is prime time to be doing it. I've got nothing else to do. No real cares in the world. I could just
Yeah.
get it finished immediately. But
I know it's like you've just all you can do really is just drink beer, sit in the hot tub, just chill out.
you know it, and like that's pretty much what I've been doing.
I know it, like mum cooks your
Great.
tea and that for you. It's just
Yeah.
it just must be so hard being you right
Honestly, my stress levels are through the roof at the moment. It's
now.
unparalleled.
And it's funny because I bet you are a wee bit stressed as well, eh?
As it happens, I am actually.
Like
There's quite a lot of
relative,
stress.
there's comforts, but we don't like they're hard to treat them in our heads relative to what's happening around us.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
completely
when everyone's
agree.
got a fucking PlayStation and you've not got one, you're like, wait, what? That's still a privilege to have one.
I actually do have mine at the moment, but I'm currently not playing it because I know that if I were to plug it in, that'd be it. I mean,
Jenny,
even having my phone's actually bad,
oh
to be
yeah,
honest.
Jenny just came in. I don't know if she realizes she can come in.
I'll say hello to her for me.
Oh, she's
She's
still
still
here.
there.
No, she dipped in and then dipped back out real quick. So I was like, I'm gonna send her messages now. Can you still see
Yeah,
me on the camera if I'm on another screen?
yeah, I can still see you. I
Okay.
think.
So I'll know not to make any weird faces in that.
Yeah, I can see you. How are you? What have you been up to?
Yeah, I'm pretty class, man. I'm actually going to put my phone on nighttime mode because it's fucking going off over there and it's annoying me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been all right. I've not really been smoking any weed this week, and I actually realised that my chest was like, because I've got asthma, my chest's actually been a little bit tight the past couple of days, and I think maybe it's like people don't realise that like weed's got anti-inflammatory properties. So if you're smoking it every single day, it's like it's the equivalent to puffing on your steroid inhaler. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So since I come off it, I've just been a bit like, whoa. So I think on Monday I'm probably going to see about getting a steroid inhaler back just to ease it a wee bit. But nah, today I've not really been doing much, to be honest. I just kind of got up late, chilled out for a wee bit. I didn't have a lot in the diary.
Yeah, it seems to be commonplace these days.
Well, I mean, I don't feel stressed or anything. I'm quite busy.
Mm.
Like I feel like when I'm up, I'm busy, and then when I get it done, it's like I can chill quite easily.
Oh my God.
Yeah, not a lot really. I've been talking to like quite a few people today about like the podcast, talking to Max about his comedy and other stuff, and well, I've got some CBD drinks as well.
How's that going for you?
Actually, when I went earlier on, I had a cola, and actually it was pretty class. Really enjoyed it. It was really nice, and it actually did kind of alleviate some of the chest pain. Actually,
Good.
you're sitting there laughing away at it. I'm like, look, mate,
No,
I'm telling you right now, firsthand. I had a tight chest, went and got a CBD cola, drank it, tight chest went away.
not anymore. Direct results. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's actually a guy called Dan who runs like a social enterprise CBD place at the biscuit factory down in Leith. He used to come. I'm sure he came into Route One when I worked there. I'm sure he came into Route One and was telling us about all the CBD products and stuff like that. So I might actually speak to him about maybe doing an episode. Or Christ, I want to start thinking about kind of sponsors as well because I want to be sponsored. I'd rather be sponsored locally by people who can give me product rather than asking people for money. Do you know what I mean? Like I'd rather advertise a product that I actually use and enjoy. And obviously, with coming off the weed, it's like right now I'm changing to being like I'm trying to come off tobacco, and so as a replacement, I would quite like to have some kind of CBD product because I do think, as someone who's asthmatic, I do think that shit makes a difference.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you see, just CBD in and of itself is a remedy for so many issues
Yeah.
around the world. It's just kind of, I mean, suppressed because if it was so widely used and so readily available, then it wouldn't be like the current system wouldn't be such a moneymaker.
Yeah.
Um,
The thing is, like, I don't know. I mean, see if like if cannabis was legal, either like medicinal or recreational, like I'm getting to the point now where like, look, I don't mind people making money because see when you get older, you have to. Like you can't live with money. Like you have to make money. And obviously there is a kind of like criminal aspect of it. And it's funny because we're going to speak about conspiracy theories, because I genuinely believe that some of these people aren't quite as criminal as we think they are. It's just that they're living in a whole different stratosphere of being in the same country that we are.
It's just like, I'm just
They've
trying to
got a
think
whole
of how.
different viewpoint of the situation. They're like, well, I'm growing this plant. Like that, the guy that owns that company in England, it's like one of the biggest suppliers in Europe or something. Like, I'm not sure if that's criminal or if he's just seizing a business opportunity.
Well, it's like, do you agree with whether or not cannabis should be legal or illegal? And then why is it illegal and or illegal? And
Yeah.
like,
I mean, just because I want it legal doesn't mean that there's not, like, the thing about a democracy is if something's made illegal, like the problem I have is this. It should be easier to change drug laws. The problem is it's really hard for the public to stand up and be like, we want this. Give it to us. Now, stop denying us what it is that we want. This is our country. That system is the thing that's broken, and that's what annoys me.
yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, yeah, people do just need to actually stand up for themselves and their rights. A lot of people don't really have a backbone for this. And like, I mean, cannabis in particular, what it's like this war on drugs. Like, why is it actually there? And it was started. What was it? Was it Reagan? Reagan? I don't know. It was a president in the States. It was like the 60s or 70s.
Yeah.
And the reality of it was basically, just to like summarize what is happening, it was just like slavery 2.0. Because what you do, well, back in the 60s and 70s, cannabis was used recreationally, and it was widespread through Black communities and minority communities.
Sure.
And this was just like a great opportunity to monopolize on slave labor, because what you do is you illegalize the drug that they're using,
That they're using.
which is harmless.
And it gives you a reason to penalize them for it.
Yes, it means you can arrest them on the basis of having such small quantities, but within the law system, you can be heavily penalized for it, and you can serve sentences for, I don't know, I actually don't know, but years.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then within
There's
those,
people who are serving life for like 2 grams of weed
yeah.
in the
And so,
state.
and then what you do is you make these people look bad to the rest of the country and be like, these people have done bad to our communities and they're a disservice to the.
Like to confirm, if anyone listens at this point, we're telling you what has happened. We're not giving you advice.
Yeah.
We're not saying this is what you should do. We're saying this is what was done.
Yes, this was what's perpetrated
Yeah.
to American race, American people, and it's not dissimilar around the world.
Yeah.
So then you make everybody look bad within prisons and say these people need to serve time, and not only time, but they need to give back to the system. And so we then say, here, because of your crimes, we're going to make you work. But you have to work for free because you're in prison. And that's just a really short summary of slavery 2.0.
The thing is, just speaking about this topic, something else comes to mind real quick, and it's something I think that people might want to, that I think people should know about, especially people locally who are going to listen to this. We're not in America, right? And a lot of what we think about certain things, it's the American version of how stuff's happening. Like when we think about cannabis laws and like who it affects, who is targeted, blah blah blah. Like, you hear all of it from the States. People here probably do not understand what our cannabis laws are like, because we actually can use cannabis medicinally. There are certain conditions in which cannabis products are given to people, and it has been like that for a long time.
Didn't know
For
that.
example, so that means that we're already kind of like on a path. The thing that's annoying me is the thing that I think is annoying UK and Scottish citizens is this, like, it's like, obviously I'm annoyed at what happens in America, but when it comes to what I can actually do with my life, I can't solve the issue of racism and cannabis use in the United States of America. Like,
Yeah.
at least not now. So the
It-
discussion, when people discuss it, I'm almost like, why? What? Like, why not discuss our cannabis laws? Discuss our cannabis use. Like, you know what I mean? And when I think about it like that, I think we're actually a little bit closer than we think. We just aren't given the push because we're not. People aren't thinking locally.
But yeah, okay, I see what you mean.
Like, that's why I'm quite interested to speak to Dan, because he does a bit of activism and he's a local guy. You know, it's a local business, and he genuinely had an experience where it's changed his life. Like, cannabis is a funny one because it is obviously a drug that's still being studied. They obviously do know that it has chemical effects on our bodies, but also science doesn't fully understand how how our body relates to our consciousness and our mind. Because the people who study life from a mind perspective think that the mind's in control of the body, and the people who study the outside physical world and the science, they think that the mind is controlled by the body, when I actually think they're interrelated. You know, you take a drug, it's processed by your body, that affects your mind. But depending on the state of your mind, depends on how that drug affects your mind and your body.
So you could probably get some like metaphysical shit there if you really wanted to.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
you're the stonerless stoner, so that's what I was trying to.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I mean, obviously, being someone who doesn't take cannabis, at least on a very rare occasion, you probably don't know as much about it as a cannabis user.
Yeah, well, this is it. I mean, like,
Well, starters, here's my advice: get America out of your head, because we're not in America, so it's a pointless conversation.
I mean, it's just good to have points of reference more than
I don't
anything.
think American points of reference make any difference to what happens here. I think it'd be valuable. See if it is. Like, no, I disagree. I agree with you. I think you're right. However, I would like to have that discussion with an American, not with you, because we're none of us are American. None of us are from there. None of us are. At least I don't have aspirations of living there. I don't like this. It's like us having a conversation about like, you know, black people in our country. That's not our conversation to have. That's you know what I mean. Us talking about America is like, we're not Americans. You can't butt in on our conversation, and therefore us having a conversation about it is almost pointless. We have to give the opportunity to have a conversation with it. That's why I'd rather have an American on the show and have them speak about their experience. I'd rather have a person of color on the show and have them speak about their experience. I'd rather have a transgender person on the show and have them speak about their experience, rather than me give you an idea what I think about it all.
Okay, so what shall we talk about? What shall we discuss?
We'll move on to the cannabis users' number one topic: conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy theories.
Because
Have you got
conspiracy theories, man, I actually love the idea of a conspiracy theory. What do you think about? What's your first thought comes to mind about conspiracy theories?
conspiracy theories? I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to. I've kind of had a lifelong passion for them because I just find them so interesting.
Everyone does, to some extent.
And it's like the idea of a conspiracy theory.
It doesn't have to be about the idea of conspiracy theory. It could be like, what's your favorite one? What ones do you think are shite? Which ones do you think are true?
All right, well, like a shite one for me is lizard people that live underneath the earth and will one day inevitably control the human race, or that they do, or they live side by side with the humans. Yeah, like that one. Like I've seen some pretty gnar conspiracy theories, but they've probably left my brain now. But that one stuck, and I was just like, "This is ludicrous."
Yeah.
Quite
frankly. So it's about like David Icke. David Icke is the guy who wrote the book Right, I've got it written down here somewhere. The Biggest Secret in 1998.
Lizard people.
And it's a book about it's an interview with like two British people who are telling them that the royal family are actually like these lizard people and blah, and like that's what the whole story is. It all comes from this book. You know what makes me disbelieve it? He was a sports reporter for the BBC before that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure wasn't he just a footballer?
Yeah,
Would, like,
I don't even know if he was into sport, but I know he was a BBC sports reporter, and I'm like, well, that doesn't make me think you know shit. Not gonna lie, but you're commenting on British sports. I don't think you've got a high level of intelligence. No offense to anyone who's in British sports.
That's pretty out there comment as well.
Yeah, don't give a fuck. I went to school with a whole bunch of people who have went into British sports, and they're all fucking morons until they come at their side. I mean, have you got any idea how many folk I know who went into Scottish football and who now live in our countries because they've been done for shit like rape and all this other shit because they're just horrible people? Like in Scotland, I hate to break it to you, but if you're someone listening to this show, you probably know that a lot of the people you know from school who went in to do professional football, some of those people are just absolute people you just want to be. I want to be pals with.
Out, just putting your cards on the table like this is what they are.
Yeah, I'm on board. I want haters. I keep telling people this on every show. I'm like, I want people in the comments being like, "Who the fuck do you think you are?" I'm like, "Fucking Fubu, mate. Don't give a fuck. Come and find me if you can."
Fair enough. I mean, if you're willing to deal with that, then
yeah. I mean, like, if you're going to target someone because they've got a comment on you being a sports,
yeah, you'll get your keyboard warriors out and they'll
be
ready.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's fun. Like, I want people in there because I want to get in the comments myself and be like, I want to be ripping people new assholes in there. Obviously, when it comes to real life, I'm like, look, man, if you're annoyed at what I'm saying and you approach me in real life to be like, why are you doing this? You need to get a grip, mate. It's just a fucking conversation. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not actually targeting anybody. I'm not saying like, let's stop these cunts from getting into football, blah, blah. This is my contribution to solving some of these problems of youth getting into bad environments and bad mentalities and toxic masculinity and all this kind of shit, you know? This is my contribution, this conversation.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely one.
Yeah, lizard people.
Yeah, lizard people just doesn't quite sit right with me, to be honest.
Why?
Just because how would they survive underground?
Well, I heard they're shapeshifters. They actually live amongst us.
Interesting.
But also, they're lizards. Lizards can survive quite easily underground. They're lizards.
But I would have thought like really far down and be like, what's their nutrients? Like, how do they get by? Really?
Well, they surface like lizards. You don't know much about lizards, do you?
No, I'm not much of a biologist, to be honest.
Really. The idea of a lizard surviving on the ground, that doesn't strike me as an impossibility. What strikes me as an impossibility is a shape-shifting lizard who acts as a human being.
I mean, like, this is it. If you can consider that possibility, then the reality of it is you have to consider that there could be lizard people among us.
This is what I like. I like this side of the conspiracy theory. I'm like, if it's right, class.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. You have to consider the possibility that these things exist.
Yeah.
Because in reality, they're not conspiracy theories, they're just theories.
Yeah.
But they're just so far-fetched that they're branded the name conspiracy. It's a good word, I find, to deter people from actually investigating such theories. Because then you look at like, what is it? The Twin Towers. Now that's been a great conspiracy since the very start. And like, so what was it? Some terrorists just like commandeered a couple planes that were already in flight.
And they went miles and miles and miles off course, and the government didn't have any way to intercept that.
Yeah. And it was like beautifully done as well in the sky when you see the flight patterns.
Yeah, planned route.
Passport
the pilot lying right outside the Twin Towers afterwards, somehow managed to survive a plane hitting a building, and then that building got into flames and hitting the deck. But no, this guy's passport survived, and it was just lying there on the ground waiting for someone to just walk past and pick it up. That to me is the weird bit.
Yeah, and I mean, like, my dad
Did he
was
chuck it
telling
in the
me,
window before they hit the building or something, or what?
yeah, I know. And then like there's photos emerging of, was it George Bush, when he found out the news, he just like was like, all right, cool, because he was doing he was reading a book to kids for some, I don't know. I honestly can't even think. It was just to kids.
Can you remember
And
where you were when it happened?
hmm?
Can you remember where you were when it all happened?
uh, I was in Inverness. I was at my old house in Colblair. But my parents, or my dad at least, was telling me about when he saw it and heard about it, and like the reporting
Yeah.
on it, and how it was out of sync with what was actually being said. So uh, the Twin Towers came down, but for some reason there was another building in New York that was also demolished, and they don't know why, but it was.
Uh-huh.
And
You're just
the
old.
reporters that were reporting back to the UK were telling a story saying like, oh, so the Twin Towers are knocked down, and so is this other building, which was
Yeah.
behind them, being reported about, but it wasn't destroyed at the time. But they were saying that it was.
Oh, I think I know what you mean, actually. The two buildings came down, but they came almost like straight down. But yet another building, slightly
Was
just down the street a little bit, also
yeah,
fell down. And everyone was like, why did that building fall down?
and then there was like more investigations as to what that building was, and I can't remember, but it could just be like some high profile information that they didn't want getting let out, and so they just destroyed it.
Yeah.
But like as dad was saying, he was like, yeah, so the reporting was they had said that this building, this smaller building further down the road, was destroyed, even though it was in view of the camera as they were reporting about it. I mean, I don't know if I believe that per se, but I mean, dad said he saw the footage when it came out back
Mm.
then. It's been reported. And like, then you get into the
When was it again? 2001.
2001. So it's
Oh,
nearly 20 years ago.
that makes a bit more sense. I was, because I thought it was 2011. I was like, I was 19. I was like, no, Wesley. No, it definitely wasn't.
I barely remember it happening. I just remember it was a big thing.
I was 9 years old. It's so funny because apparently I was 9 years old, but I think by 9 years old, I was living in Bonnerick. But I seem to have a memory of living in Mayfield, which is where we lived before, in the flat, coming into the living room as a child, and everyone was having a minute's silence.
Oh,
I might have to speak to my mum about this and confirm some dates.
I'm trying to think if I had a minute silence.
Maybe I didn't move
I did.
to
I
Bonnerick
did
in '08.
when it
I
happened.
definitely remember a moment of being in a room when I was really young and everyone's silent, and I was just like, why is everyone quiet? You know, everyone's having a minute's silence. I'm like, what's going on? And my mom's like, shh. I'm like, what?
Just
Why are we all
quiet.
like this? Like I was not a
Give a
particularly
reason.
quiet child as well. I was very inquisitive. When something was going on, I was like, what is happening?
Oh yeah. I mean, kids do have really are really perceptive, sharp minds.
Do you have any alternative theories to 9/11 then?
Well, no, not. I mean, it could. See, the thing is, the beauty of it is like you could just believe what you're told, which is terrorists took over a plane, they crashed both of them into the thing,
Yeah.
and that's just really sad and unfortunate. And what are the chances? But the
What?
ramification,
Sorry, what?
when you look into like the ramifications of what's happened, uh, what am I trying to say? If you look into the ramifications of what has happened, that there's now a nearly 20-year war in Afghanistan,
Yeah.
or like over in the Middle East, which was that was the catalyst for it. In
This is what I
fact,
was going to say. I don't think it was the main event.
so but
I don't
what's
necessarily think
what?
that means Americans did it though.
No, but like, so what's so we analyze it in that way. It's like, what is there to be gained from being out in the Middle East? We got the perpetrators, or the so-called perpetrators.
Oil. You're aware it's oil though, eh?
Yes. So this is I want to lead to it. So we've got the perpetrators, but we're still there. So what's the script? Are we just trying to keep getting rid of the terrorists that just somehow are continuously coming at us by force, or is there an alternative, an ulterior motive? And just like not beat around the bush, it's oil, pretty much. But it's also fear
Uh,
and creating hate towards another person.
yeah.
And we also know that war is lucrative, incredibly lucrative. And
And
so,
you know what? I think, see, when it comes to war being lucrative and things like that, I often think, like, what's going through my head right now? Imagine this as a scenario, right? In a modern country, I think obviously war is. I think we are aware of the fact that war is lucrative, right?
mhm.
But I don't actually think in the world today that governments are deliberately generating war for financial or political gain. I don't think this is a 1984 novel that we're living in, right? It doesn't mean it might not be, but I personally think that that may be a scenario, but I think there's other scenarios that, like, the conspiracy gets shoved up the most, like the main one gets shoved up the most, but the reality is there's obviously going to be loads of other different theories, and it really just depends
Yeah.
on which one picks up first. But another thing is, like, imagine you're an underdeveloped country and you find out that war is lucrative. It's not only lucrative for the country that attacks you, it's a lucrative for the country being attacked, because it all of a sudden gives your allies reason to be involved with your country. Right? So say
Mm,
you're in Iraq, your country's falling apart, you think to yourself, right, what can we do here? Let's attack America. They'll come over here and attack us. We'll lose. They'll start taking all oil, and over time, our country will get money from that oil, because Americans are, there is some money went back into that country eventually, even if it was a small amounts. And now, do they now still own all that oil? Because from my understanding of the Middle East, is it's now a very popular, growing financial place, because these people over there now have access to their own oil. Imagine before it, if they never had any money, they never had any resources, they couldn't access that oil. By going to war with someone, it gave them access, really, over the
exactly.
long term. Think of, like, governments don't think, what's going to happen next year. They think what's going to happen in 20 years.
That's another interesting theory as well.
Because they're slightly, like, underdeveloped, if that's the word you want to use.
Mm.
And therefore they'll probably use tactics that you wouldn't imagine a modern country using.
Sacrifice
Tactics
our
that modern
people.
countries haven't thought about, because they are modern countries.
I'm just trying to get my head around that.
Because, like, I'm a very outside the box kind of thinker, and I always try to think of scenarios which people wouldn't expect, because quite often we can't actually see the world from the perspective of that other person. That's actually a really hard thing to do. But I think when you can do that, you're very much become enlightened to the fact that they are not thinking the same way we are.
Yeah.
As
Well,
much as we all compete on a global scale and we can communicate with each other, our thoughts are just not the same at all in the way that we're thinking about the world. And that leads to different ideas and different scenarios.
like how you say that you think outside the box, that's, you could like equate that to conspiracy theories, because that is essentially what they are.
Sure.
They're away from a certain narrative,
Yeah.
and you
I
have
consider
to.
the conspiracy. I consider what's in front of me, and I consider what's been given. But
Mm.
I go beyond that, and I consider things that haven't been given to me. And I don't necessarily make an informed choice unless it's something I need to make an informed choice on. Do I need to believe that 9/11 was real or a conspiracy? No, I don't have to have a solid belief on that. I don't know what happened. I have the same thing with COVID right now. Remember, we were talking about this the other day. I don't
Yeah.
know what's happening. It might be a conspiracy. It might be war. It might be this. It might be that. But I don't know.
Yeah, and it is difficult to make an informed decision on it, really.
Yeah.
Because
And what's the result? Well, I get to sit in my house and the government get to keep me alive. Oh, what a fucking world we live in, eh? I'm so underprivileged right now. I'm being ruined.
I
Like,
mean, it's good.
honestly, I feel for people who are dealing with their health during this crisis, but you can't imagine being a little child in Africa right now who's suffering, looking after their family, can't drink water. But that happens today, like right now. And you've got cunts moaning about their mental health. Like, as I come out of a mental health crisis, I now realise how privileged a mental health crisis is.
Yeah, I guess that's up for debate as well.
Yeah, that's a different thing. I don't want to go down the mental health track, and I also don't want to. I don't like targeting anyone who has mental health. It's just that as I'm coming out, it becomes something that I find is
It
a lot
becomes
less
clear to you though, but
understood.
it's not clear to them, and that's why it's difficult.
Yeah, of course. That's the
Like,
thing that I think about that a lot, because that's the thing. That's that thing I'm trying to cross with what I'm doing with my work. It's like I want to help people get out of their mental health problems, right? But we kind of have the stigma around people being like, just stop thinking about it, man up, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Like people think those things aren't helpful, and I just completely disagree, because those have helped me and people I know.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like one solution fits all, really.
No, it's not. You're right. I just think that one gets a stigma in not being a solution, when the reality is, like, you know, I've had friends who have been going through some hard times, and I just got angry at them and went, bro, shut the fuck up and just stop thinking about all this fucking bullshit. And within fact,
I mean,
you know, and then they'll get really angry
yeah.
and they'll shout at me and blah, blah, blah. But then 10 minutes later, they'll come back to me and be like, look, man, you're right. I was just thinking about absolute bullshit. I was in a shitey mood. I don't know what was wrong with me.
I mean, because I
It
do
works. I've used those
agree.
techniques and they work, and they're being stigmatized as techniques that don't work, and therefore people are scared of those techniques. When the reality is, sometimes if you're suffering with, especially depression and anxiety, sometimes you just need a really good friend with you who can give you a fucking slap across the face and say, wake the fuck up.
Yes, I agree with you, because that is a technique that I use. I like half and half. I don't want to go too hard on them, so I push them over the
Yeah, we'll
edge.
move away from mental health and go back to conspiracies, because I want to be kind of, you know, fearful in that. I don't want to do a mental health one today.
Well, that's, yeah. I was just gonna say, like, because it was the same process that was used on me. My boss used it on me. And it was like, don't ever fucking be like that, blah blah blah, and it did help.
Yeah,
It
because
worked for me.
it's an old man mentality that people don't like these
Yeah,
days. I think it does have a misunderstood value.
it does have merit, but you need to know when and where to use it. It's
Yeah.
so, yeah.
And when I'm in the podcast, I'm like, do I use it? Because people who are like on that teetering edge, people who know me, they'll get it. People can be depressed and anxious and still have a bit of humor, and that humor can help them. And I think this, when you're being like, wake the fuck up, fool, like, you know, it's humorous, and I think it does help. But I worry, because I don't want to upset someone who's really suffering and thinks that I'm targeting them, because, like, no, I do feel for you. It's just that this technique does work for some people, and it worked for me. And it might work for you if you don't stigmatize it. That's my advice to anyone suffering. If you don't stigmatize that thing of your family members or your friends just telling you to wake the fuck up and giving you a slap about the place, don't stigmatize that, and it might actually help you recover.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we could probably do it. You could do a whole episode on it.
Right, here's another one. Aliens.
Aliens. Okay.
What's your thoughts on aliens?
Well, that's a really good point. I actually had a kind of like a little revelation the other day about how life could have possibly begun on Earth.
Go on, I love it. This is what my book's on, so go for it.
It was kind of like like it just kind of clicked. So tardigrades, is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Tardigrades.
Yeah, I started having thoughts like this, and this is why I started writing a book, because I was like, why don't I write a book about an alternative way that the Earth has grown? But anyway, yeah,
Because, like,
tardigrades. So they're small single-cell biological creatures, or something.
Yeah. So basically, there's like the theory that aliens came to Earth and brought life, and so life has blossomed from that.
I know, it's one of my favorite ones. I love that.
And equally, it could have just been like tardigrades came to Earth because they are a very resilient microorganism that can survive in space.
Whatever atmosphere was here when they arrived.
Yeah, but it's like, how did they actually get into Earth without just like combusting? But regardless, I just thought about it the other day, and I was like, maybe they just float through space and just so happened to end up on Earth. Maybe there's
It could be on a meteor, though. I mean, the universe is old. Like, it might be a meteor from like 5 suns away that you just can't possibly conceive the planetary situations over there. You know, something hits a planet, a big chunk of rock comes off, it flies straight in that direction. It just happens to burst into Earth, hit in the water somewhere, couple thousand years later.
It's pretty mental when you think about it, like what is possible. I mean, and there's also like the theories of like small microorganisms began in the sea and single-celled organisms, and then eventually multiplied into greater-celled organisms. And lo and behold, here we are, millions of years later. Life on Earth.
I've got an idea. It's funny because I want to put ideas into this podcast, into this conversation right now, but I'm also a bit concerned about intellectual property because there's a lot of ideas I've looked into that don't really exist in the internet stratosphere, and usually when that happens, that means it's a fucking good idea, and so you're like, I want to keep it to myself. What if the world, what if the modern day? I think about it from. What was that?
I'm looking for slippers. My feet are cold. I've got some. Fuck it. Sorry. Carry on. I'll be okay. I've got big socks.
When I was thinking about this, I always think about human beings. I don't necessarily consider where all the other animals have come from in the other life. I just think about how we've come here because we seem very starkly different to all other life on the planet. You know, plants seem very similar, insects and animals and everything seem very similar, and we feel like we're extremely different from them. And when you look at what we do compared to other animals, you know, we don't just build a nest; we built a whole fucking cities that span the globe, and we develop mechanical technology. I mean, like
perceived intellect.
Yeah, I mean, this planet is. Sorry.
Yeah, so like the only reason why we see ourselves as different is because of our perceived intellect. We think we're just amazing.
Well, I mean, yeah, but also like on the surface, on the surface, we do things other animals don't really do. Like other animals have community, like on a like biological level, other animals act very similar to humans. But what we've done with those things seems very far beyond what other animals do in terms of like coming together to build huge communities that advance over time and change over time, you know. And Otter builds a dam, but they do it every single year in and out, in and out, in and out. Does the technology behind that dam get any better as the years go on? Who knows?
Well, I mean, they've advanced to that point through evolution.
Exactly. But then it makes me think, are we actually ahead? And if we are ahead, right? Now think about it. If we are ahead of these other animals, why is that?
I mean, you could get like really philosophical because you'd be like, what is really considered being far ahead? Like,
of course,
what the best place to be? Like, everything's got its own merit, really. But like, I'm trying to figure out what the question was actually.
Bess here.
Oh, hey Beth. Oh, nice jumper. Where'd you get that?
You think she's getting cut out, but she's still going to be in it.
Sorry, what was the question that we were talking about?
Right, so imagine tardigrades come to Earth, they create life, right? Next thing you know, you've got plants and insects and fish and dinosaurs and the rest of it. What if another form of life came to Earth after that and changed the life that was already here?
Oh, so now we're just talking about any possibility. So aliens coming to Earth.
It's aliens and it's conspiracy theories. The fucking, you know, the microphone's open, mate. What can come to your brain hole?
Well, I mean, when you consider aliens, I definitely believe that they exist. I mean,
I think life outside of our planet exists.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily put the stereotype like alien, big head and eyes and everything like that.
No.
Life outside.
Let's say like intellectual or not intellectual.
Do you mean like intellectual beings who have done something like ourselves, like developed technology, science and stuff, right? Okay.
Yeah, and this, like, they could be millions of years ahead of us just by chance, sheer chance. Because like if you just
could also be the first ones though.
Yes.
By the exact same chance, because we don't know.
Exactly. But I mean, I guess in probability alone, it just seems entirely possible. Like we cannot be the only thing that exists.
But I don't think that's true.
We can.
Universe. The thing about conspiracy is conspiracy theories take into account something which I love to, and that is the absence of facts. So the fact that there aren't facts there to prove something specifically leads to a conspiracy of being like, it must have been another scenario, right? So our thought pattern these days is the fact that because we haven't found aliens and we've been here for so long, that they must be there, right? But you have to consider this, the idea that maybe the reason we haven't found them is because we are actually the first intelligent ones who have left our planet. That is also a possibility.
Yeah. Mm. I mean, yeah, using the same logic, absolutely.
I love
It could
that.
just be.
I love the absence of fact. That is, to me, that's what thinking outside the box is. It's like when you look beyond what you have to what is absent, everything opens up a little bit wider, and you get such a, I think, more interesting view of it, of the current situations.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to like confine yourself to certain boxes and whatnot. Like, you really need to be able to scrutinize and open your
I think,
mind to
there's
every
different kinds of
possible.
people are really good at thinking outside the box. People are very good at thinking inside the box, which I'm really not, to be honest. I'm not really an inside the box thinker. I prefer to be outside the box. It's more
Yeah,
fun.
I'll give you that for sure.
Like when
I
I go in
mean,
the
like,
class, when I go in the classroom, I feel physically ill when I see all the desks lined up and stuff. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
get me out of
so
here right now.
I do agree with that as well. The education system, the way it's all works right now is just not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Uh,
But the thing is, it
it
is some people's cup
doesn't
of tea.
work for everyone. That's why, and
Yeah.
it should be a more. I do know what I want to say, but it's just not coming to me. Uh, it just needs to change to be able to suit everyone's needs, because uh, it doesn't suit everyone.
Yeah. Or its place in society needs to change. It needs to be there as an option, not a mandatory option to a certain extent, I think. And the thing is, college and university isn't a mandatory option. The thing that really, I think people do gain a lot from going to college and university. I definitely did gain skills and stuff from going to college, but
Hmm.
there are things that I've learned from not going
College.
and actually living in life. But then also what happens is when you get people who don't go into that, people don't people leave school having a bad experience, and so they don't go to college and uni. And what happens is that bad experience leads them to no longer want to educate themselves. And so I think that leaves them stagnant and they become very
Well, it's like what you said. Like, it's not for everybody.
nah.
Like, like, not everybody's brain or way of thinking or ability to think. Oh, I don't know. What was it? Sorry, my brain goes total tangent when I think about these things. Basically, uh, shit. I'm trying to say something.
You die at school is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, like, I've been at uni for what, fucking 7 years now, and just like slowly, like, it's like walking through a swamp for me.
Yeah.
Other people just like be like Jesus and walk on top of it and breeze through.
Yeah.
And I've done it. Like, I would have probably done better just getting an apprenticeship as a joiner's mate and doing that, and been earning big bucks now.
Yeah.
That would have been a happy life for me. Great.
Yeah.
Because the real skills, like, those are real skills to have, like tangible skills.
And again, you just maybe just enjoy doing those things and you enjoy having those skills. Again, it's not for everyone as well.
Yeah, exactly. So there should be more options available for people, and
Yeah.
not everybody should be uh, pushed to try and do higher education, because it just isn't for everybody. It's really just statistics for schools.
Thing is, though, do you think we are pushed into that? Because when I was at school, apprenticeships and that were pushed at us quite a lot as well. Because we lived outside the
We
city, we
weren't.
grew up in towns where there was a lot of engineering companies and joinery businesses and blah blah. And where I live specifically, it's old mining area and stuff like that. That these kind of trades jobs are actually extremely popular with young people where I grew up. In fact, I kind of went into one when I left school. To be honest, I went and worked with my dad as an engineer,
No, I think
and I
I was
applied for apprenticeships as well.
I was definitely pushed towards going to university.
Yeah.
Um, no, it's not like a bad thing or I look
I
down
was
on
pushed more by my mum
to
because
do.
no one in my family had finished university before.
Mhm.
So I think from her perspective, she really wanted someone to actually finally go and do it. And none of us have succeeded in that. Sorry, mum.
Nothing to apologize for.
No, of course, I'm successful in other ways. She knows that. I don't
Because like
I don't
I was pushed to the university by my parents
yeah.
and school, and I'm not like annoyed or anything. I was just, it is a good way to step into adult life. It's learning how to feed yourself, get a job, but also still a bit of funding to keep you afloat from the government.
I mean, you said that you know how to feed yourself, bro. I've seen what you eat.
Yeah, I know how
We're
to.
fishing ourselves laughing. We both know you eat like shit, mate. Like, I eat like shit as well, and I
Okay,
know what a good diet is. Doesn't mean I do it.
I'll say survive then. I know how to survive. Bare minimum.
Yeah, so do I. Pasta and water.
But I mean,
Wait,
I did defer a year before going to
second, I
university.
need to go through because Beth wants to cook. No, that's fine. Right, it froze up a wee bit there.
Yeah, I wonder if it. I'm just wondering if it got what I was saying, because the internet went horrendous.
Maybe not.
Yes,
I said
like,
that I think maybe you just enjoy that environment a little more than the university
yeah. Well,
environment.
I just like being able to use my practical skills. Like I couldn't work at a desk for the rest of my life, like doing accountancy or whatever.
The thing is, though, school and university, this is one thing, is that's not what school and university is. Like, that's not what they expect you to do when you leave university. They don't expect you to go into an office job and sit at a desk. Like, school's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be a challenge, to challenge yourself, to educate yourself in order to give yourself a better mindset for when you leave and go into the world, to be able to operate as a more efficient human being. And I think that happens. I mean, look at all the biggest advancements, all the biggest changes in the world. A lot of those people went to university. Like,
yeah,
I think we like I have definitely looked down on the system, but the system is extremely valuable for teaching people how to get into the world. Like, I know people who have left uni and they're extremely productive, happy, wealthy human beings who have done extremely well for themselves. Even some of them haven't come from wealthy backgrounds.
yeah. So I mean, we could get into the education system. Like, if you want a more high functioning society, educate your populace, put
I
money
think that's what it
into
is. The option
education.
should be there. We should have high functioning. And I guess anyone who doesn't want to be that, that's the problem, is that you're born into the world and it has these certain systems in place. And when you're growing up, especially when you're younger, they seem that they're against you because it's not what you want to do. It's none of that kind of stuff. But the reality was, back in the day when they developed these systems, the what's it called? Not the way of life. Like, what I'm trying to
Structure
say.
of education, like the way in which we learn.
I'm just thinking about the development of the educational system.
Yeah, and how
The
it hasn't
quality of
aged.
life before the education system was worse. And
Yeah,
the people who were willing and able to educate themselves, they were able to elevate themselves up and become beacons for those who hadn't. And the whole point with the education system is that if you offer an education system, you give people that option to live a better life. But when you're born into a world these days where your life's actually all right, you didn't see the value in the school anymore because you're like, well, I've already got money and my family has a job and I can just go to work. Like, why do I need to go and get an education? But the reality is that, like, this is why, for example, I know a lot of people from African countries now who are at university, and like they're like doing extremely high level things. Like, they're doing high levels of engineering, high levels of science, high levels of finance, accountability. Like, they're going fucking straight for the top because the fact that their families have made enough money to give them an opportunity to go to another country and study is, like, they see that as being an extreme privilege. Whereas here, we're like,
yes,
fuck,
lost
I need school.
effect.
I've already got a PlayStation.
Hmm?
I mean, like, that's how we think. I think, like,
Yes, we
I'm not
take
one
it
to
for
target the
granted
education
here.
system. I don't target it.
I mean, like, we take it for granted here. That's pretty much it, to be honest.
Yeah.
But like, I mean,
Can you find a way for the education system to tie into conspiracy theory in some way?
uh,
It's an interesting thought challenge, whatever they call that.
I mean, like, I look at if you keep your populace like dumbed down, and stupid, they'll never rise up against you. And
Yeah, but I
so
don't think the government keeps their populace anything. I think populace does something and government reacts. I think we've got that. I think for a long time I had that idea backwards. I actually felt like government were in control. Actually, the people are in control.
yeah, people are control, but
We
they
don't
also
realize it until we're adults
they,
and you get into the business world and the political world. You don't realize the power you actually hold as a human being in your country, especially a modern
so
country like.
that train of logic, then the government in control because they know, and if they know that that's how people operate, then they can just keep them like that instead of educating them to break out of that like hex, as it were.
Okay,
So I mean,
it's an interesting one.
yeah. So like, I could. I mean, I don't really trust our government, to be honest. They're just, especially Tories. I mean, like,
Well, let's go into one thing here because we're at about an hour now, and I want to get another one at the way that's conspiracy theory related, and it kind of ties into all this. Illuminati and societies running the world. They would essentially they know what everyone is like, and they dictate everything from the poor to the rich, the governments and the schools and the political systems. Like the whole idea behind these secret societies is they're above that.
I mean, it's like the
My
same
granddad
thing.
was a Freemason.
It's like the
A lot
same
of people
thing
in
with
Scotland,
the
Freemason.
cabal, like this idea of a cabal at the very top who controls us all. And I mean, it's you think about it. Well, if you can think it, then it's a possibility.
Uh-huh.
And so, yeah, just like the Illuminati controls everything. Surely it's possible. Like we're so aware of how like humans operate on a yes, physical level or like on a social level,
Physiological, I think, might be the word you're looking for.
theological. Fucking, who knows? So
Because
many
that
words.
takes into account your mental and physical ability to interact with the world around you.
That's it. There we go. Uh, so
You're the one that's went to university. Oh, aye, it's doing well
yeah,
for
but
you.
I'm doing an engineering degree. I'm not looking at.
Yeah, I've got
I
an
mean,
A degree, and yeah, I know what physiology is.
uh, yeah, but if you
I'm now
want,
going to fact check myself.
yeah, my sister would be the one to talk to. She did psychology, so she's
I mean,
pretty adept at.
physiology is more relating to your body, but yeah, physiology is the scientific study of functions and
Psychology.
mechanisms in the living system,
Okay, well here
and
we go.
that
Learning something
that's how you
today.
operate in the world around you. You know what I mean?
But like we understand how people operate on every level. Let's say just every level,
Do we?
and so
You
being
need to
able to
speak up.
manipulate them is relatively easy. Really.
I think if I was to send you out on a mission to manipulate someone to get something, I think you'd find that's actually a lot harder than you think that is. I mean, think about
Well,
this. Think about India, right? There's what a 5 million population, 5 million living population in Scotland, right?
okay.
That's not a hard population to control, really, if you wanted to, right? In India, there's 1.7 billion people.
That's a lot
How
of
much
people.
control do you think the government has over those people? A lot of the control over their people are actually extremely old ways of thinking. Like, for example, they have a high and low sect class system that, depending
Mm.
on which one you're born into, automatically directs you through society, which is a very old
There's,
thing, very
there's
popular in
control.
India.
You create class systems, and people will, I guess, fundamentally abide them. It's like, let's say you've got, just for sake of argument, lower, middle, and higher class,
Mhm.
and the higher class have got so much fucking wealth, but they tell the middle class that the poor class is what's the problem with the world and the society right now, and uh, you, I don't want to explain it. I'm just trying to figure out how to like interlink it all.
I disagree with a lot of these ideas sometimes because I see as I get older, you get a little bit wiser and your mind starts to change a little. And I mean, you know what I think as well? I think when you're going through uni, and I don't mean this any offense to you or anyone else, but I think there's still a certain level of childlike mentality or like young adult mentality. Because when you complete that and you actually start to live in the world and you realize that you're going to be alive for a long time, every day starts to become a little bit more relaxing. You realize that you're going to get up and go to sleep every single day for the rest of your life. And you're going to have to get as much done in those days as you can, all the rest of it. And I think what I'm realizing is like a lot of the things that we can, like, that we're thinking about now as youngsters isn't actually how the world is. It's just like how we think it is. And depending on the
But yeah,
adult
that's like
environment you grew up in, depends on your whole ideals.
you
Like,
just have to live life to experience everything that it offers
the
you.
more
It's like
productive I become and the more I start to seek out my passions, the more I start to realize that the poor is a mentality that isn't actually put on anyone. It's just a mentality that has still existed through the generations and generations because you can't control population.
mm,
You can't control how parents raise their kids, for example. It's just physically impossible. You can control society in certain aspects, but you can't control how people raise their kids. You can't control who has kids. That's why people who are addicted to drugs and alcohol still have kids in families. And then those kids grow up in those families and they grow up in that poor mentality. And very quickly, they hate the world as much as their parents do. And very quickly, they get onto drugs and alcohol. And very quickly, they're the exact same kind of person, not through any fault of their own, not through government getting involved. It's actually government's lack of help for people like that that causes that thing. But I don't think that's necessarily something they're doing on purpose. I think it's just that once you start to work and put in all that effort and realize how much you actually have to work in order to make a decent living, it makes those people seem harder to help because they just come across, they start to appear more lazy from that class perspective rather than ill
like
and well.
just like I was
I think
saying
they are ill
before.
and unwell, really, but that you don't want to tell that to people who are like working class. You don't want to be like you're unwell because you hate the government and you think that everyone's against you and the rest of it. But I do think those things are like not illnesses, but I think they're negative ways of thinking. And I think that is what affects people. I don't think governments and inflict that upon people. I don't think secret societies inflict that upon people. I think it's just nature. I think we're all just a bit detached from how we are actually we are just an animal being. You can't control your animal population. It's just you just can't do it. Like
I
there's
mean,
7.6 billion people on this planet. It just doesn't make any sense. And you've got people, like I said, squabbling for food and looking after families when they're 8 years old because their parents have passed away. And then you've got people who are just making money for doing absolutely nothing because they were born into a rich class. And that changes every country to country, you know, on a global scale. I find it hard to think in those kind of ways now. I like
I mean, there's
to think about it and talk
so
about it,
much.
obviously, but I'm definitely trying to encourage people that where you are in the world is up to you, no anyone else. No one is keeping you where you are but yourself.
Yes, but
Every rich and successful person will tell you that, and it's because it's true.
people don't have those tools to do that. And where do you think they can get those tools? Through
Internet.
education. And
We've all got phones. Even the poor people have got phones. I mean, I've got a friend in Gambia who actually messaged me to get money to go to school. He's 17 years old. Do you know what I mean? But he's got Instagram because when his dad passed away, they gave him a phone.
then there's a system. They've got phones, but
They don't know how to use them.
what gives them the motivation to find out the information? Like
That's the thing, they don't. And
they
in
can.
his country, so where he
And do they
lives,
understand it?
uh,
And if they're unable to understand it, that's another, like, it just decentralizes. Is that word?
no, I think now you're maybe, I think maybe now you're degrading the mental capacity of people in poorer countries. Because I've spoken to him and he doesn't have anywhere near the level of education we have.
I was talking about this
But he's not
country.
stupid, and I'll tell you why he's not stupid. It's because he's a Muslim. He's part of a religion. He's part of a community, an educational community. Religions educate the people. He's not a stupid guy. You know what I mean? He's really intelligent actually for his age, and that's why I've actually kept talking to him because I've taken away my judgment of these people in poor countries as being that they're in such far away a place that I can't help them. The reality is, yeah, I can't send this guy money, but by having conversations and connecting those two planets on this one device in my hand that we both have, that totally bypasses the middleman, which is government, education, religion. All of that just disappears, and it's just me and him having a conversation. That's why I think with the internet today, the internet has totally flipped the world around. That's why it's so fucked. That's why Donald Trump got elected. That
I
wouldn't have
mean,
happened before the internet. Well, actually, maybe it would have happened before the internet, but it wouldn't have been the spectacle it was before the internet. People would have thought he was a fucking god, and they would never have seen any of the bad shit he did.
I don't know. I don't know where that conversation went. It kind of
It started off as education, and I think that people
chopped
have.
it in.
You said how did they get access to the tools, and I said the internet, because I genuinely believe that the internet has got everything you need. Like everything you can learn at uni, you can learn on the internet. If you put the effort in and you know how to educate yourself, if you take education upon yourself and don't rely on someone else to give you that, everything is there online. Like I said, I never studied biology at school, but I understand physiology and things like that quite well because I've taken an effort to learn it myself.
So like,
I studied engineering as well, bro, mind.
I'm just trying to formulate a response. One sec. I was talking about people in this country to clarify. And it's like, as you're saying, anyone can educate themselves. But there's like factors to be able to educate yourself. It is the knowledge as to know to where to go, how to do it, having the tools to do it. I mean, people do have the tools, but I'm like, they have the internet, but do they have the drive to do it as well? And if you live in a system that, and if you live in a system that just like keeps, I don't know, I guess dumbing you down, or like people around you have lived in such a shit system for so long, there's a mentality where, oh, my parents never did it, so I'm not going to be able to do it, and that's just life. I better just get a job, a simple job to keep me afloat, and practically live out the same life as they have, or for generations this has happened. So there's that to consider, and so it's like, how do these people get the tools to do that and the information to do that, and then the drive and the positivity to be able to be like, actually, yes, I am capable of this. That's where we fail.
You want to get really meta for a second?
Go.
What we're doing right now is providing those tools for people.
Yeah, I guess you could say that is.
Why it's called Boobo's Future. I thought about it. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing this because I've no thought.
Whoever's made it this far into this podcast, you are capable. You just need to keep going forward.
Damn fucking right. That's probably the best thing you said all this whole fucking hour.
Don't listen to anyone that gives you any negativity. I mean, do take on board what people have to say. Like if it's like within reason, and you have to. It's like when I tried to fucking buy Herbie, and I was like, yeah, I can do this, and didn't really think much of it. And then a couple of my friends were like, you have to think of this, 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 and I was like, yeah, but I don't care. I'm just going to do it. Just going to. What? I tried to buy Herbie once, or I was the place I used to work.
Which place?
I used to work at the sandwich shop.
Oh, right, okay. So wait, so you wanted to buy that place?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm glad I didn't now because we're in a total shit show of a situation with this pandemic.
Yeah, but that's a negative way of thinking about
it. I listened to people's views on how it could possibly play out, but I ultimately just went, I don't really care because I'm just going to try it anyway because I'm not going to know unless I try it. So just do what you can.
This is almost worth the gamble because you pretty much can't lose, really.
Yeah, I mean, I would have lost loads right now if I did take over because it is.
Yeah, but you've got to be alive for a long time, man. You've got friends and family around you to support you. You wouldn't have lost anything, really.
Well, there's also that as well to consider. But I mean, like, I would have.
There's loads of that.
But yeah, just know that everyone is capable of making a change. Be the change that you want to see in the world, as kind of cliche as it is, but it is really true. Like, if you want to see change, make it happen. raise your voice and do it.
Sure. Any last minute thoughts on conspiracy theories? Well,
5G, that was one other one you wanted to talk about. And how it spreads coronavirus. It just seemed people just, what I'm finding more and more often, and what has been talked about, is people know fuck all about a lot of things. And
technology being one of those things.
yes. People just scratch the surface, or they just read a headline and think they know the whole thing without doing basic research. And so I don't really know where 5G has the ability to spread a biological entity. I was going to say biological warfare, biological.
I think the theory is that it affects you on a, again, physiological level. So the virus necessarily isn't transmitted, it's activated.
Right, okay.
You know, like an NFC chip in your phone or your passport.
Like getting activation energy from essentially light.
You have the same ideas about cancer. They say that everyone has the possibility to have cancer. It's just that something in your life needs to happen to trigger it.
Okay, that's an interesting perspective. I haven't heard that. That's pretty cool. But basically, what I was going to say about 5G is it's literally just another bandwidth frequency
that we've been in, that we're sitting in right now, and we have been.
Exactly. Like
it's just they're reutilizing that bandwidth.
All that information passes through you constantly. Like we're also bombarded by radiation naturally, and like we're still here. Like we'll be all right.
Yeah, we're quite good at that.
Although there are interesting speculations as to whether or not Wi-Fi and radio waves will have detrimental effects over a long period of time to life. I don't know how it affects the body in reality.
I like it. I think of myself as a cyborg these days.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, 5G's, they don't spread coronavirus, but who knows, they could activate it.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely an idea. Well, I guess my last thoughts on conspiracy theories is for anyone, like, this is like, if you're wanting to educate yourself on conspiracy theories and you want to look into it, or you're already believing that conspiracy theories exist, take a second to consider the reality that maybe it's actually just wrong, and what's being told to us is happening is actually happening. Because like, it really depends on the person which route you're going to go down, because I know people who are like, it's definitely happening. And these people are educated people. They're scientists, they're personalities, they're people who have trust in their communities and stuff, and they think it's real. But there's also people who are just as equally as educated and just as equally respected by their respective communities who think it's a load of shite. And the reality is, if those two people are both saying one or the other, then the reality, like from my perspective, I don't know, and I'm not going to make an informed choice. Like personally, with like, as you know, from the COVID situation, being asthmatic and being someone who's smoked for a long time and stuff, I do feel at risk now. And at the end of the day, like I said, because of where we live, it's like, yeah, okay, I'm suffering a little bit because of the environment I'm in, especially having come out of like a really bad mental health situation. I'm fucking ready to go. Do you know what I mean? So like, this is really holding me back a little bit because I'm fucking ready to be fucking lighting this place ablaze, man. but the reality is, take time to consider and do some proper research into both.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Don't come to a conclusion that you believe one or the other. Just decide how it's going to affect you with the knowledge that you know. I've made a personal choice to keep safe, wear a mask, keep a bit of distance, blah, 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 because I'm in a country where I'm privileged to have the opportunity where I can sit in my house and I can get help to pay my rent and I can get a little bit of help with food. But I'm struggling with money. I've got bills due. I'm behind on, like, I'm up to date paying rent now, but I'm still behind a couple months rent payment. Another thing, when it comes to people's financial situations, when it comes to debt specifically, get on the phone and just deal with it with people. Don't let it sit there. Just do it straight away. As soon as you realize that you're not going to be able to afford rent, phone up the letting agency and just tell them, because they're there to help you. And the same with...
Yeah, I don't think you'll be able to get evicted with the current circumstance. If you were, they would
Who's
get a
going
lot
to
of
do it?
flack.
What are the police going to come and be like, your letting agency says we're going to evict you? It's like, by the time anyone came to evict you from your house, you're probably going to want to move out anyway.
Yeah, I'm also just going to like reinforce what you said. Do your research. It is good to scrutinize both sides always, and scrutinize your own opinions. Like you're always learning.
For sure.
Don't deal in absolutes. Don't be a Sith.
Yeah. I think, yeah, if you're someone who, like me, doesn't like the school environment and can't see themselves back in it, you've got access to probably one of the most valuable things that humans have ever created, and that is the internet and the data that is there. Like, you have that opportunity to educate yourself, and I utilize that on a daily basis for self-education, because I know that I lack in education, and I know that for a long time that was detrimental to my mentality. It was detrimental to my mental health. It was detrimental to how I was interacting with the people around me. And I've got friends who are still living a poor mentality, but I also have friends now that live in a rich mentality. And I think of poor and rich not just meaning money. Like, it's to do with your knowledge. I think knowledge is just as valuable as any money,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Right.
free. Like, once you get access to the technology that gives you it, like, I mean, think of all the stuff that we know that people buy: clothes, takeaway food, blah blah blah. There's so many things we spend our money on we don't need. I think technology should be one of those things that you're investing in as soon as possible, because the sooner you have access to a smartphone, a computer, and the internet, you're automatically extremely wealthy, because you get access to the internet for free after that.
Well, fair.
It's all about investing.
Talking about technology, my mum's trying to call me. One sec.
Cool.
Nah,
It's been good chatting to you. I hope by the end of this, people realize why you're called the Stonerless Stoner. And it's not necessarily because of your outside the box thinking. It's more of the way in which you go about thinking.
correct. Just scrutinize.
Yeah. Here, one last thing before you hang up though. You realize you've got a double barrel last name, and I've now got a double barrel first name.
Have you made that? Have you set that in stone?
Nah, it's something I've thought about doing, but also I kind of like the idea that, look, I'm born into the world with a name that my family's given me, Rhys Alexander Wilson. And over time, I've come to appreciate that name because it relates to my family history, and it relates to a lot of things in my life. My parents picked my name. My middle name relates to the first names of a lot of my family members, Alexander, and Wilson is my granddad's name, who I hold really dear to my heart. I miss him all the time. Like, he was a very big influence in my life. But Fubu was this name that other people gave me. And then the way I spell it was my little addition to that name based on a certain situation. And I'm thinking to myself, it doesn't need to be on paper. Like, I can write it online. I can write it wherever I want. I get to choose where I write my name. It doesn't have to relate to
a free living body. You can do it.
I don't have to have Rhys Fubu Alexander Wilson on my passport. Do you know what I mean? I'm fine with having Rhys Alexander Wilson. That's my name. But I put that there and I double barrel it on purpose, because I've got a family name which was given to me, but I've also got another family name that was given to me, and that's that nickname. That was given to me by my friends, and they're family as well.
Yeah, and I get what you mean. I was gonna say, like, do you ever think you gave yourself your name Rhys instead of your parents? That's a topic for another
That's
day.
a fucking, yeah. I know you're taking think about that one, bro. That doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I'll be gonna send you a message in 2 seconds and be like, "What the fuck are you talking about, bro?"
And we also need to discuss crypto. We didn't get into that, unfortunately.
Nah, bro. But here's the thing, man. We've already been on for an hour and 20 minutes. We can do this every single other day, man. Like, podcasts. Like, that's what it's all about, man. It's just about having conversations. We said we're going to speak about conspiracies, and we actually got quite a lot into education, because you're in an educational environment, and I'm the opposite of that. And that contrast is such good conversation. And when those conversations open up, information comes out, and that's what I want. I want kids to have access to real life people talking about real life shit that's happening to them.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm trying to think of how to pop off, but like that was pretty interesting. It was good.
Sure, man. It's been an absolute fucking pleasure.
It's nice to actually have a long-winded conversation. It's outside my thought.
Well,
anyway,
hang up, nice... then, cunt.
Cheerio.
See you in a bit, bro.
Bye-bye.
Ciao. And right back to the fucking potato screen. Yeah, that was my flatmate Angus. That was a really fucking interesting conversation. I loved it, actually. And if you've made it this far, I love you. I love you more than him. It's funny speaking to Angus because in my flat, when I'm at home, I'm quite quiet, actually. Stick to myself. Like I said, I'm educational. I sit on my laptop, I'm like absorbing, talking to people. I've got my phone in one hand, but I'm like a fucking cyborg. I'm fucking watching Gary Vee, and I'm watching fucking everything. I'm like fucking putting content up from fucking. I'm doing fucking everything right now. It's unreal. And so we didn't really quite often. I don't quite often have a lot of these conversations with flatmates. So it's quite interesting to actually have a conversation with a flatmate about some stuff. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this, hit the likes and subscribes and the comments and all the shit that YouTubers and that tell you to do. Yeah, just whatever you're watching in this one right now, just do that stuff because it helps me. It helps the folk that are going to get to see this video. I think it was educational. If you've made it this far, you've definitely enjoyed it and had taken value from it, or otherwise you wouldn't have been listening. So yeah, I love you for that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. For those listening again, it's on YouTube. If the video is going to make you a bit more inclined to listen all the way through, go for it. I'm your local Foobs. You can get me on Instagram, Foobs Future Podcast. Thanks for listening. Oh shit, are you still here? Oh my god, you're absolutely fucking insane. I can't believe you've just listened to us blab on for this long. Listen to me. That's just absolutely fucking outrageous. Thanks for listening. You're fucking insane. I absolutely love you to fuck. Get over to Instagram at your local Foobs, FOOBZ, and fucking give me a fucking DM because you are an absolute insane human being. One thing, I told you there was going to be some touchy subjects in there, did I know? It's pretty fucking on edge at points, and I'm still getting used to this whole thing, so there's occasional butts and whatever, but I'm getting there. It's a slow process. I'm not bored, fucking, like I said, come at me, bro, I'm ready. But yeah, if you've got any comments or if you've got anything to say about some of the stuff we spoke about, just hit me up in the DMs, hit up with the comments, YouTube, Spotify, whatever the fuck, however you want to do it. I'll get the notification, I'll just click it and open it, and we'll be having a chat in 2 seconds. It's all good. I'm really active in that sense. Another thing, Valentine's Day's coming up, right? Valentine's Day. I'm single. I've been single for this whole COVID thing, and obviously it's dating and that's impossible. So how are we going to look after ourselves? How are we going to self-care? I'm a smoker. I smoke tobacco with my joints. I smoke tobacco cigarettes. I do like it. I'm asthmatic. It's just an addiction now, and it's got to the point where I don't want to do this anymore. If you are in the same boat, head over to your local Foobs and send me a message, and I will send you a link to a WhatsApp group. And on Valentine's Day, we're all going to start either going teetotal, or we're going to sit in the chat and develop a program for people who want to try and quit. And if you want to try and quit, come in there, hit us up, and join the WhatsApp group, and let's just show ourselves a bit of self-love this Valentine's Day. I mean, to me, if you're a smoker, nothing is looking after yourself more than trying to get yourself off it, because I honestly am at this point in my life now where I just do not see the value in smoking tobacco anymore in the world today. It just, find other ways to deal with your stress and your anxieties in the world. Don't be going to tobacco. You know what I mean? If you want to smoke some joints at the weekend or whatever, cool. If you want to smoke a wee joint at night, cool. If you want to have a beer, cool. Didn't go over the top with it, but tobacco is just probably one of the worst drugs that you can be taking. And me personally, I'm wanting to get off it. There's 4 or 5 people we've got in the chat already. I've just been adding people in, and then on Valentine's Day, I'm going to send everybody a nice message, and we're going to get this thing fucking popping. So if you're keen to do that, and you've made it this far for the video, and you're just hit me up on Instagram at your local Foobs, FOOBZ. Hit me up in the DMs. I'll send you that link, and yeah, we can all quit smoking together. Thanks for watching. Peace.